Is it possible to buy an apartment building with no cash and no credit? Well, it absolutely is, with one key secret strategy. My name is Monica Main. I'm a serial entrepreneur and real estate investor, and I'm here to share with you a powerful strategy to show you exactly how to get a no cash, no credit, cash flowing apartment building. So here we go. All right, so you're probably wondering, why an apartment building out of all the other types of asset classes out there? Well, unfortunately, it's very difficult to be able to buy, say, a single family home like a house, a condo, a townhouse, and be able to turn around and rent it out to a regular family and be able to make a cash flow in today's day and age, due to the fact that housing prices have gone through the roof, so has interest rates. And by the time everything's said and done, by the time you actually buy the house and turn around and rent it out, you may be lucky to make $100 to $200 a month after your mortgage, your taxes, and your property insurance. Okay? So why would you ever want to do that? Well, the answer is you don't. And then even further, to increase the risk, unfortunately, if the person or family that you're renting that unit out to or that house out to, they lose their job and they're unable to pay you a rent payment anymore, you have to now continue to come out of pocket for the monthly mortgage payment as well as the taxes and insurance. And you're going to have to hire an attorney to go out and evict them. And depending on the state that your property is located will determine exactly how long it takes for you to evict them out. And in many cases, it takes several months. And so therefore, you're on the hook paying these payments every single month until you can evict them out. Plus, you're paying legal fees. That's certainly not the way to do it. Instead, if you want to make a lot of money in cash flowing real estate, your site should be set on getting apartment buildings. Now, not just any apartment buildings, they need to be apartment buildings of a certain size. So for a building to legitimately and legally be an apartment building, it has to have 5 units or more. So a 2-unit, 3-unit, or 4-unit, that would be a duplex, triplex, or a quad as they call it, which is a fourplex. Those are considered residential properties, even though they're multifamily, as it pertains to getting a loan. So, for example, a fourplex is actually considered a residential property, even though it's a multifamily, when it comes to getting a loan for that property, which means that you'd have to put 25% cash down and be able to get a 75% LTV mortgage for that property. However, whenever you get into properties, apartment buildings that are over 5 units, or 5 units or above, that is what we call an apartment building, which is what we also call residential commercial. And you can get a commercial loan for those, which means that as long as it has a cash flow already and it's a performing property of 85% or above as far as the amount of tenants that are there, seasoned tenants of 3 months usually or longer, and in some cases if the bank is stricter it's 6 months or longer, then you can get a 20% cash down, 80% LTV through a traditional lender. And if you're working with a local bank that's local to the property, you can very well get an 85% LTV with as little as 15% down. So that's the benefit of an apartment building. But you're thinking, okay, Monica, we're talking millions of dollars in many cases for an apartment building, especially if we're getting into 12 units, 16 units, 24 units. And by the way, the more units, the more potential cash flow you can make. And it almost doesn't make sense to get a 5, 6, 7, 8 unit when you should be looking at 12, 16, 24 units or above, ideally. Just because back in the day, you could very easily get an apartment building that was 8 units or 6 units, for example, that would make a really nice cash flow. But in today's day and age, it's just not a doable thing in many cases in many major metro areas of the country because of the amount of cost and the interest rates right now. It just doesn't cash flow as well as it used to, for obvious reasons, because the costs are way, way higher. So nowadays you should be thinking about 16, 24 units or more, depending on the area of the country that you're located. And even better, you can potentially get the property for no cash and no credit. So here's how that would work. So say, for example, you're looking on a website like LoopNet. LoopNet.com is a commercial MLS. And you could also look at different websites like cityfeet.com or CoStar.com. They're all pretty much pulling off the same MLS, which is a database of all the listed properties. I personally like LoopNet the best because I've been working on LoopNet forever and I just happen to like the platform. You don't need to pay a fee. You can actually get into it for free. So you go to loopnet.com and take a look at the different multifamily properties that are for sale in your area. And again, you want to look for 16 or above units. And if you're in a cheaper place, like say, for example, Detroit or Cincinnati or Cleveland or Indianapolis or someplace like that, then you could probably get away with getting a 12 or 16 unit apartment building and cash flowing very well. However, if you're in a very expensive place, well, if you're like in LA, for example, or New York, forget it. You're probably not going to be able to make the cash flow work at all. But say, for example, you're in a mid-sized city, like maybe Houston or Dallas, Fort Worth, or something like that. Well, Dallas, Fort Worth is pretty big, but you know what I mean, where it's not like one of the top three, which is New York, Los Angeles, and Chicago, but it's a bigger city, then you could very well potentially make the cash flow work, or like a place like Atlanta, for example. So you want to take a look at what's available on the multifamily side of things when it comes to LoopNet.com. Now, once you actually go into LoopNet, you take a look and see what's available, and then you run everything through what I call a cash flow evaluator. So I created a cash flow evaluator. It's an Excel spreadsheet. You can get it for free. Just go into the description box below, and I will give you my cash flow evaluator and my tutorial video on how to operate this cash flow evaluator, and you can see what the potential cash flow is on the property based on the amount of money you want to pay and how much the current cash flow is right now with the current tenants that are in place. And so you're probably thinking, okay, well, at the end of the day, still, Monica, this is going to still cost me millions of dollars. I don't have that kind of money. I can't put 20% down on a $2 million property. That's a lot of money. So this is where we get into the nitty gritty on how you can have what's called skin in the game, which means that's your down payment. Where do you get the money if you don't have it? And, you know, what if you don't have good credit either? Like, how does this work? Well, there's a secret to this whole thing called sub to or subject to. Now, if somebody has a pre-existing mortgage on the property already, and what you're going to find is that there's a lot of retirees that just simply don't want their apartment buildings anymore. Many of them still want top dollar, even though the market's kind of soft in a lot of areas of the country. You could very well approach them for a creative financing deal, okay? And the reason you would do this is because they can't sell their property. Maybe it's been sitting on the market for 3, 4, 5 months already, no takers, and it's probably because they want way too much money or the market's really gone soft where they're at and they can't get anybody to buy it. And they're probably not going to. If they're not able to sell it in this market, they're probably not going to be able to sell it for another 3 to 5 years. So you can approach them through the listing agent, which means that you call the listing agent that has the listing on LoopNet, and you say, hey, can I take a look at the building? I'm an investor in that area. And so basically you would meet with the real estate agent, take a look at the building, and then while you're on site physically with the real estate agent, you would ask him or her if the property owner is open to creative financing, and this is very important now, you specify that they will be getting their commission either way. Okay, this is very important because if they feel like they're not going to be getting their commission, even though it's a violation of the law that they don't submit your offer, they will more than likely not submit your offer. So what you should do is always, always guarantee that they will get their commission if they do a creative financing deal with you. Now you're probably wondering, well, where am I going to get the money for that? This is when I highly recommend that you get involved in getting what's called corporate or business credit. So anybody can get corporate or business credit, provided that all you need to do is go to a place like AmiraLawyer.com. That information is located in the description box below, and they can literally set up a corporation within a few days for you in your state or in the state that you are going to be operating your business or operating your real estate empire. And so you first get a corporation. You want to get an EIN, which stands for Employer Identification Number. It's essentially the social security number for your corporate entity. And what you could do is start the process of building business credit. You can access hundreds of thousands of dollars in unsecured credit in a very short amount of time, even if you have a brand spanking new business. So you can utilize this unsecured credit to be able to get the down payment needed for your property deal if it's a smaller deal, or to be able to cash out the real estate agent's commission on a creative financing subject to deal. So I like the latter most of all, because the latter is that you are literally just putting in commission money and you're putting in a little tiny bit of money to be able to sweeten the deal for the apartment building owner by basically allowing him or her to get a tiny bit of money to essentially take over their mortgage. Now you're probably wondering, well, Monica, why would anybody want me to take over their mortgage? Well, some of these apartment buildings are in arrears, meaning that they're 2, 3, 4 months behind in mortgage payments. So if you could take that unsecured credit that you get business wise and you're able to put it into the arrearage of their loan so that they don't have to suffer from a foreclosure, and you can pay the commission to the real estate agent, then you could literally take over this property, meaning that you take the whole thing over. So if you're thinking, oh, Monica, I don't know if I trust them. If they're in arrears, why would I want to keep paying them? And then essentially they'll just pocket the money and they won't pay the mortgage company. You take over everything. When you do the paperwork through a real estate attorney in that state, they will set up all the paperwork for you. You are taking over their entire property, including their mortgage, and you will gain access to their mortgage information in their mortgage portal, meaning that you will take over their online identity and go into their online portal, their platform, and basically connect your bank account to the mortgage payments, as well as the tax payments and the insurance payments on the property. So all of that stays the same. The taxes stay the same, the insurance stays the same, and the mortgage holder stays the same as well. And so all of that stays the same. You just gain access to it. You change the password, and it's basically your property. Now, of course, you do have to do the paperwork elements to it, meaning that you can't just take over somebody's property and hope that after the property is paid off that you're going to gain title to it. You're going to have to get what's called a warranty deed, which means that, again, a real estate attorney in your state that you're going to be investing in property will be able to get a warranty deed. It will be transferred into the name of your corporate entity. So even though the loan will stay in the name of the original loan holder, you will still be on title on the warranty deed that's filed with the county. Okay, this is really important stuff. And so this is essentially how you can get properties for, basically those that are out there that you don't want to put a down payment on, that you can actually essentially just take over with very little cash and no credit on your part. Now, you're probably wondering, okay, well, where do I get all this unsecured credit? Because maybe your credit isn't so great, or maybe that you just don't have the ability to quickly raise business credit. Maybe you don't have a corporation. Well, get a corporation right away. You should. I have in the description box one of the best places that will set up a corporation for you virtually overnight, and then you can start getting business credit right away. But I do have one resource. It's my secret money guy that can get you up to $450,000 in unsecured cash that you could actually use for the purposes of paying the commissions to the real estate agent and paying any arrearage that the property owner currently might have on their mortgage, or in the very least to offer them some kind of deposit to be able to facilitate this deal. Now here's how you sweeten the deal for them. So say, for example, they have an apartment building that they've been trying to sell. They have it listed at, say, $1.5 million, and it's been sitting trying to sell for 6 months. Nobody wants it. And then you look at other apartment buildings around that area, and they're selling for on average about 1.2, 1.3 million, and they just want way too much money. So you can still keep the amount of money that they want for the property, the $1.5 million, to sweeten the deal, because then they would feel kind of obligated to take the deal from you, knowing that you're going to be paying the commission to the agent. You're going to be essentially giving them the asking price that they want, and you're going to be also being able to offer them some kind of kick in on an amount of money to have them walk away from the deal. It's essentially going to be kind of like a down payment, if you will, just a smaller down payment. And so you can even offer them a private mortgage contract. So say, for example, they only owe $750,000 and the other $750,000 is equity. So you would have a private mortgage contract for the other $750,000 that would go directly to them in payments every month. And then the other payments would go directly to the bank. Now, the cool thing about this whole thing is that you're only paying on a balance of $750,000 on the property, and it's at a much lower interest rate than what you can get right now today. And then on the private mortgage contract, you can actually negotiate a 0 to 3% straight line interest with the other $750,000 that you pay, and you could do that over a 30-year time frame, or a 25-year time frame, or a 10-year time frame. You can basically choose how to pay that back. So that's essentially how you would be able to get an apartment building with no cash or little cash and no credit. So I strongly advise you to check out my Secret Money Guy. His information and how you can get it is located in the description box below. And then that way you can gain access to up to $450,000 in unsecured cash. And you don't even have to have a business set up. The business credit part is just icing on the cake. But you don't even have to have a business set up to be able to work with my Secret Money Guide to get the up to $450,000 in unsecured credit. You just have to have a mid FICO score of 680 or above. So if you don't have a 680 or above, check out my other credit videos to teach you exactly how to increase your FICO score by 100 or 200 points in the next 30, 60, 90 days. And then you would be able to qualify for that upwards of $450,000 in unsecured credit to be able to pay off the commission on the real estate agent, to be able to offer the apartment building owner some kind of deposit to essentially take over their mortgage. So that's how it's done. It's pretty simple, pretty easy to do, and anybody can do this as long as you understand the steps. Now, remember, you do need to have a really good real estate attorney that can help you draw up the contracts to be able to help facilitate this legally so that once the mortgage is paid off, that property will be yours. You want that warranty deed to be put in your name or the company name that you have. That's the most important part to all this, so you don't want to skip out on all of that. But that's how you do it. It's fairly simple, very easy to do. And if you found that this content was helpful, give me a nice thumbs up as well as subscribe to my channel. That helps me out a lot. And this is Monica Main signing off, and I will see you in the next video.